This is the Defenders podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're back with Agatha All Along to discuss the making of and announce our Cauldron Coven Quiz winner.
It was so much bigger than we anticipated. And then when I came back to Marvel and started developing some ideas for different shows, every show concept I had an Agatha piece to it. You know, no matter what character or what world, there was always, and then in episode 104, Agatha comes in and Kevin finally said, should we be doing a show based on Agatha? And then it became, why aren't we doing a show based on Agatha?
Welcome back, fellow Defenders, to TV Podcast Industries. We're back with Agatha All Along, wrapping it up, talking about the assembled making of Agatha All Along and announcing our Cauldron Coven Quiz winner. I am one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow Defenders. I am your other host, John.
And I am the teen. I mean, Chris. I wish I was a teen. It's been very many years since I was a teen. But I still have the boyish good looks. Well, at least I'm told I do. I think they might be lying now.
Yes, it does indicate how much younger you are than us, but you're definitely not a teen, Chris.
I could be. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, younger.
It's
but more wrinkles.
Yes, I could be a singer, but I'm not. I could be a teen, but I'm not.
If you shaved, you could do that Beverly Hills 90210 thing where you pretend like you look like a teen even though you're in your 30s.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's difficult to know because you've got mostly facial hair.
Mm-hmm.
Everything under the facial hair is actually not even there. It's just like pure jawbone.
He has no jaw. Well, that's a bit creepy. Welcome back, fellow Defenders, to Agatha All Along. And we are once again joined by Chris. We are going to talk about our final opinions on Agatha All Along, wrap it up later on. And we are going to talk about the assembled documentary, The Making of Agatha All Along, which weirdly was only released on YouTube, not released on Disney+. This is the first time that Marvel made this decision.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't want their platform anymore.
No, I will say, including our official TV Podcast Industries account, from the minute Agatha All Along finished, everybody that I saw was posting to Marvel, the Marvel accounts going, push the making of Agatha All Along out as soon as possible. If you're not going to announce a second season, we want the making of immediately. And then almost as if they were just pissed off with the fans requesting it, they responded to one fan's request going, right, there you go, it's on YouTube right now. And it just was unceremoniously made available for everybody. But it is odd because even Deadpool and Wolverine that came out this year, that got its making of, the assembled documentary for that was released the day that was released on Disney+. So I just think it's a bit odd the way they've released it.
I have a theory.
Mm-hmm.
We'll never know. But I have a feeling it's the audience for Agatha, I think, actually skewed younger to the more kind of TikTok teen generation. And I think they might have got some of the highest numbers versus the standard kind of Hawkeye kind of Echo numbers. I think they may have seen exponentially bigger there. We know the ballad went kind of viral on YouTube.
Absolutely.
The song went viral. The TikTok went viral. Not the dance, but the song being used on TikTok went viral. I'm literally wondering if it was like, do you know what? A lot of the kids are not going to watch it on Disney Plus. They might watch it on making of on small chunks on YouTube. So here you go.
Yeah, but it's weird that it's the first one they've done that with, and they have the platform. They should still have released it on Disney Plus if they're all the other ones are available on their YouTube channel as well. But it's just not been made available on Disney Plus.
It's the one or the other element. Yeah. I mean, maybe it will go on Disney Plus eventually.
Or it's a test. It could be a test. Literally, it could be what's the number like here? What's the number like over there?
Yeah, I guess so. But it would feel weird that Marvel, a media company, wouldn't be like mediating it to hell, on They put trailers on YouTube. Why not an assembled?
Yeah.
They've got a Marvel channel on YouTube, so why not?
But everybody that watched Agatha All Along would have watched it on Disney Plus because you
Yeah.
had to have Disney Plus. So you put your making of on there like they've done for every single show, including Echo, a 5-episode show that was dropped in one day. They even did an assembled for that and put it on Disney Plus. So I just find it really odd. But we'll, of course, talk in detail about the assembled documentary, as we always do in our wrap-up podcast. But I think we should get down to the Cauldron Coven Quiz, get down to our local cauldron, have a drink, and give out the answers to our Cauldron Coven Quiz.
Let's just get to the squeaky cauldron, our pub for
Here
this quiz. Yes. Welcome, fellow quizzers and defenders. It is answers time for the Cauldron Coven Quiz for this season of Agatha All Along.
Yes, it is. I have to say, congratulations to all of the correct entries that we got in. This is definitely the most entries that we've got in for a pub quiz that we've done on TV podcast industry. We're mostly doing them on our Marvel shows, and we know this show has hit really hard with our listeners, and our listeners really have enjoyed the show a lot. But thank you so much to everybody who put the entrance. Thank you so much to everybody who put your entries in. I think we have the most correct answers as well. We have 20 correct entries in here, which is the most we've had, I think, so far. I think previously the most we had was 18. So, yeah, well done. And to those of you who just entered and didn't get all the answers into us or didn't get some of the answers right, thanks so much for at least coming along with us on the wonderful Coven Quiz.
Absolutely. Yeah. Always good to have a good old pub quiz.
Absolutely. Let's kick it off with the first question from Agatha All Along, episode 1. The question was, 2 names are revealed on the toe tag in the morgue, W. Maximoff and A. Harkness. But what dates are beside each name? The answer for that was, Wanda Maximoff was October 13th and Agatha Harkness was January 21st. We called it a toe tag, actually. We were wrong. It is the library card that was in the Darkhold is what that was. So yeah, we didn't put that together in the first episode, and I didn't spend much time thinking about it because it was our pub quiz question, but afterwards I was going, well, of course it was, because it was her going to the library to find the library book that had disappeared. So yeah, October 13th and January 21st. Those dates are connected to when the shows aired, because Agatha All Along was airing during October and WandaVision was airing during January. Not exactly the dates, but that's what they're connected to.
Ah, that's cool.
There you go.
Next up, question number 2 from episode number 2. How would a payment to psychic Lillia Calderu appear on your bank account? The answer is Lillia's Leggings, because it's her side hustle.
Exactly. Yes.
I do like that one. That was a good one.
I like that she specifically pointed out to the team because he might get worried he had Lillia's Leggings on his bank statement.
Yeah, absolutely. On to question 3 from episode 3. What is the name, year, and type of wine that the Coven drink for trial number 1? Oh, the answer is, the name of the bottle is the Reina. The year is 2016, and it is a Crianza Rioja.
It is, yeah. Reina meaning...
Love Riojas.
Yeah. Reina meaning queen, and Rioja is a red, so it's Red Queen. This was one of the early ones that people thought was an indication we'd be seeing Scarlet Witch, our Red Queen from MCU, which turned out to be wrong.
Just a scarlet wine.
And also, this is the one I was saying to you about, that we got a bit of feedback that says some people watch the show on their phones, so pausing it to get 3 different things from the label on wine was very difficult for those people who are watching on their phones.
I like to think the quiz is challenging.
Yes, or making you watch
cerebrally,
TV.
but also physically.
Yes. On to question number 4 for episode number 4. What 3 instruments does Lillia play in the Rock Coven's version of the ballad? She plays the zills, the triangle, and the maracas. She also holds a tambourine at the end, so she is holding 4 instruments, but we see her playing 3. If you had any 3 of those 4, we gave you the correct answer as well.
You're being too nice, boys.
Gotta be when some questions are too difficult that some people didn't get them at all. We'll give other people a little bit of stretch.
Okay, on to question number 5 from episode 5. What age does the teen say you need to be to play Parker Brothers Ouija board? The answer is 3 and up. So unfortunately, I'm out. I see him, I'm out. Just haven't reached that crucial age yet, at least mentally.
Well, our godson will soon be able to play with a Ouija board, Chris.
Yes.
Which I find mental.
I know. It isn't the same as on the actual Parker Brothers game. That is an in-joke that was in there, just to say it.
Excellent stuff. On to question 6. What is the name of William Kaplan's barking dog? Greg.
Yeah, I always like animals named after human names. Not called Brownie or something.
Or Fido.
Greg, like that. On to episode 7. On episode 7, the divination trial. In that, what does the writing on the edge of the tarot tabletop say? It says your path winds out of time. A little indication that Lillia was going to pass by the end of that episode.
Excellent.
Next up for episode number 8, question number 8. How long has Billy been gone from his home when he returns to his parents? The answer is a whopping 24 hours. Whole day.
So,
24 countdown.
Dun-dun.
Yeah, they're going to have the countdown clock on the side as they go through each of the challenges. But yeah, they went through 4 challenges, multiple deaths, all in 24 hours.
I know. Well, time moves differently, you see, on the Witch's Road.
It does, especially when it's created by
exactly.
by Billy. The final question, John?
Yes, final question from episode 9. How many covens do we see Agatha take out with the con of the Witch's Road following the death of Nicholas? The answer is 4.
Yes. Hundreds,
She is
probably.
a serial killer.
Yeah, but she probably did kill hundreds over the time, but we see 4 on screen as they go through that. As I mentioned, we have 20 correct entries. Those entries came in from Adam Downing, Dr. Bob Phillips, Heather Sass, Cody Mellinger, The Joyful Baker, Denise LaFlorio, Jorge, Keith Murray, Diane Shaw, Josephine Pruse, Will Walton, Brendan Mueller, Sana Samu, Anthony Davis, Christopher Collinson, Alina Marino, Lisa Winrich, Connie Labreda, Philip Florencio, and Isadora Maya. Thank you so much to all of you for getting your correct answers into us.
Absolutely. Well done, fellow defenders. It's really good to see a nice big batch of you up for the e-tombola that we will run you through, or Chris will run you through.
Absolutely.
Yes, I personally will run you all through that tombola. And by doing that, I usually start by saying, hey Google, randomly select a number between 0 and 20.
Here's a random number. 18.
18.
That's Connie Labreda. Congratulations, Connie.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Connie, for winning the Agatha Cauldron Pub Quiz.
Absolutely. I'll be reaching out to you in the next couple of days to find out where you are, what part of the world, and then we'll be able to send out some Agatha All Along goodies to you. Part of that is because I don't know where everybody lives. I should really ask everybody for their address when they're emailing into us, because then I can choose the goodies before I get in contact with everybody. But I have my eye on a few Agatha All Along things from different parts of the world.
Yes, you do. Yeah. Well done, Connie, again, and a big well done to all of you who sent in your answers to the pub quiz this for this season of Agatha.
Absolutely, yeah. More quizzes coming next year, 2025.
It's going to be good.
Fantastic. So those will be winging their way to you as soon as possible. Obviously, with the time of year, it might take a little bit of time to get them out to your address, but I'll be in contact with you as soon as I possibly can. Guys, I think we need to talk about Assembled, the making of Agatha All Along. And Agatha All Along itself. Chris, you missed out on the last few episodes of Agatha All Along. Overall, what did you think of the series?
It was one of my favourites of all the MCU properties, and especially as a follow-up sequel to WandaVision, but in the same instance, it is also an origin story in its own right. So I don't want to say it was a pure sequel. It was also its own thing. I would strongly give it a strong, if I was to grade, it would be that 8 out of 10 range. For me, one of the slight, and Derek and I discussed this offline, how they decided to do that ending in terms of, I wasn't unhappy with it, because again, using that last episode to show the true truth behind the witches, the behind the ballad of the road, the witches' road, and to be fair, the truth and real history behind Agatha. I felt that could have been almost in this last episode could have been not swapped, but maybe edited slightly differently. It just felt very, I want to say hard cut.
Right.
Which is, we went from one episode and it was like, it was almost that standard Marvel kind of ending where you have two people of the same powers fight.
Yeah.
Now, they did it slightly differently.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they didn't do a power versus power, boom, 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 done. They did slightly, but not to the same extent as, say, like Secret Invasion.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, remember when I said that?
Uh-huh.
But I just feel it then went from that to, like, it was almost like a screeching halt.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going into a different timeline. I enjoyed it, and I felt the revelations made up for it, but it was a bit of that narrative whiplash, because you're going from a crescendo of a finale, which was episode 8, and then to episode 9, which still a finale, but almost like an epilogue, if you will. So
Yeah,
it was just
absolutely.
I felt like that it just felt a bit narratively. Ugh. So maybe the editing could have changed it and would have made it even stronger. That being said, it was still well told. Like, I think well done to Derek for guessing the twist, be it that it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge thing, because I wholeheartedly thought you were bonkers for what you were saying. I was
Billy
like,
had created
Yeah.
the road. It was all from his mind.
Yeah.
I did say on the podcast, I'm only repeating because you're here, Chris, but I did say on the podcast that I think that's great writing. If anybody can guess the show, it shouldn't be about not being able to guess. They put the clues there and we put it together because we're podcasting about it every week, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I don't want them to have mystery boxes that just come out of absolutely nowhere when they get the answers out there. So I'm delighted I was able to guess it, because that's good writing. I'm delighted with that. And it has been a few weeks since Agatha All Along aired its finale. So Jac Shaeffer's been on the full press tour. She's had loads of discussions about the decisions that they made on the show. One of the things she said that was always in her plan when she got the call to do the Agatha All Along series was that she wanted to have the second last episode be the battle. And their version of the battle is obviously Agatha versus Death or Rio. They wanted to have that as the second last episode and do the last episode with that explanation of how Agatha got from that point to here. So that was always in the plan. But interestingly, she said that they were going to end the series with 8 episodes. And I don't think it'd be the same cliffhanger where Billy realizes and he sees the ghost behind him and that would be it. I think it would be extended slightly. And then they were going to drop this episode of this, and then they were going to drop that final episode with Agatha Harkness and her son. They were going to drop that a few weeks later, like the way they did with Sandman. It was just going to be that segment of it, showing Agatha in the past going all the way back to the Witch's Road, and that would be a completely separate episode dropping a few weeks or a few months after Agatha dropped. So I think that was quite interesting. I prefer that we got them both on the same day, to be honest. No. But interesting, that was always kind of in her plan, that she never wanted to end the show with the big battle, because again, as was criticised in She-Hulk and as Deadpool has had a stab at, that tended to become the MCU idea that they were there's a build-up and a build-up, and then you have a big battle at the end and people just punch each other and that's the end of the show, so she didn't want that.
I feel that Jac Shaeffer's really made a name for herself in now almost doing what I want to call the OG Jon Favreau Marvel kind of piece, in that Jon Favreau took what was your B-list Avengers in the day and made them, like, you had your Iron Man, your Thor and Captain America, and they, like, the Guardians of the Galaxy. Back in the day, these were not your, like, top tier A-list kind of properties.
Not at all.
Like, that was your Hulk, your Fantastic Four, and your Spider-Man. Like, those were the namestays.
All the ones they'd sold off to the studios, basically.
Exactly, yes. the Sony properties, Fox properties. What I think Jac Shaeffer's done is taken Agatha and now Wiccan, and really built them and narratively into a space where I think I'm really interested to see, like, you could give me a Monster of the Week building of Agatha and Wiccan going on a journey to find other people and the other young Avengers, and they have to battle. It's like a supernatural spin where they have to battle some demons every couple of weeks. And with enough of that banter and narrative and the dialogue that they built now over that this season, plus everything we know about Agatha from season 1, that's interesting. Like, that is something I'd sit down, and that would be my kind of pay-per-view viewing.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's it. I think the whole the magical side of the Marvel, I guess, TV and cinematic, it feels like that's got the most options.
Yeah.
Or has maybe consistently just been kind of developed through the phases in this kind of, after Avengers, with having, WandaVision, Agatha All Along, but also having then Multiverse of Madness. Even, I guess, the Eternals with that sort of end credit scene with the Black Knight and all that. Again, it's all fairly, like, there's options there, a sandbox to play in. And I think that's what's really good. And I totally agree with you, Chris. I think Jac Shaeffer has done a really good job here in the TV with WandaVision and now with Agatha All Along.
Absolutely.
And I think they're immensely rewatchable as well, these shows, which is really good. Like, I could quite easily go back to WandaVision again and to the start of Agatha All Along. So I think that's really, really good from them. It's
such a shame that she's not going to be involved in the Vision show, Vision Quest, or whatever it's going to be called. Interestingly, Terry Matalas is the person who's been tapped to direct that, who did Star Trek Picard, which was really good, especially that third season, which he was helming. So that'll be really interesting to see what he brings to Vision. But I wonder, will they reincorporate, now that Agatha has been quite successful? I wonder, will they incorporate Agatha and the story of Wiccan and Agatha looking for Tommy? That would be interesting as a separate storyline within the Vision Quest show. While Vision goes on his quest, his son's also gone on his quest to find his other son. That could be quite interesting.
I wonder what she's working on now.
We don't know, but we'll talk about it a little bit more during the documentary bit when we're talking about the Assembled, because there's some interesting discussion about how she came on board for Agatha All Along, I think. Overall, though, Chris, was there any episodes particularly that stood out, especially ones that you didn't get to talk about with us?
For me, actually, it is and we'll get into it in the Assembled, the last two. So, costume design across the last actual three, because you have the Tower trial, then you have actual Wiccan's costume, his actual uniform, his creation to Wiccan, I want to call it that, or that kind of superhero costume. He had Agatha's power up and that changing costume that gives her. Rio being Rio, Lady Death. The use of practical prosthetics there, amazing. And then actually the transfer or the traveling through time in that final ballad of the Witch's Road, where you see how it's evolved, the song, and you see Agatha singing it throughout the ages, and it changing each chorus and each piece is slowly changing the words slightly as it's updated, as it's tweaked and changed. Just so powerful.
Yeah.
And again, we're going to get through this in the Assembled. Like, those are the three are the strongest for me beyond the first episode.
Yeah.
Which I felt the first episode for me was, looking back on it now, the bridge between WandaVision and what the show was going to be.
Yeah.
And that worked for what it is. Now I'm looking at what the show was. The last three were the strongest for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the storytelling in episode 7 was fantastic. Lillia's trial.
Well, that's my
I thought that was brilliantly told, and something that could be that kind of style of storytelling could be taken out of here and done in a completely different way, in a different movie, different genre with different characters, and would still work just as well. But the way it was done in this episode, where we see how Lillia's been dealing with her life, living it in different timelines almost, and then it all comes together and converges in that episode as she comes to her end. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I think my favourite was episode 7, effectively Lillia's story.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, weirdly, in the end, for me, this series coalesced for me around Jen, Lillia, and Alice. The three kind of witches coming along on this journey.
Yeah.
And I think it's mainly because emotionally, I think they had the heartbeat in it for me. I mean, I actually think even in the making of here that we're going to discuss, the stuff with Patti LuPone actually is really
She's brilliant.
Great and speaks to me. So I kind of coalesce around that. That's not taking anything away from the Wiccan, the origin story of Wiccan. I really liked that. I've read a number of Young Avengers and stuff. Really liked the character. And I thought that was going to be the big thing for me. And in the end, it's still massive, but I just like the little ensemble of the three witches coming along on this journey. Because I kind of got invested in them, and two of them died. And Jen, it really intrigued to know, well, where did Jen go?
Absolutely.
And what's, she's being told she's the future. So what is she going to do?
Yeah. I hope they have a plan.
I
for
really
Jen.
do.
I really do. I really want to see her back in something else in the future. But you're totally right, and I think part of it is going to be in the show because they're trying to stretch it around Agatha's story for the whole season, and we didn't get the reveal of what was happening until the last episode, and that fleshes out both Billy and Agatha's characters when you realise Billy's created the road, and it's from a song that was created as a con, or was used as a con for 100 years by Agatha, or 300 years by Agatha. Sorry, I'm getting all my timelines wrong. But those things being held back make it difficult to kind of align yourself with both Agatha and Billy because you're trying to learn who they are. Whereas Jen and Lillia and Alice, they come on screen fully formed. They are characters that you're following along, and you can identify with them, and you can see them on the journey. So you're right. They are the heart of the show more than the other two because you're learning about the other two, and there's big things being held back from you as an audience member.
Agreed, but there was still stuff that was kind of withheld, like the person who had depowered Jen. And even with Lillia's, the fact that she was having these moments through space and time. Yeah. So it, that disjointed nature of Lillia throughout the episodes until you get the full story.
Yeah.
Again, it's in the same way. I think it's just that can be sometimes the thing is with lead characters is that in a sense it's because you do know them. And so you have these characters that you're trying to find out, why are they on the road with them? Are they just body fodder for for death? So what is going on? So anyway, I just really enjoyed the series, to be honest. I thought it was just very, very, very good.
Absolutely.
And I really hope that we get another one in this wheelhouse, almost like the Holy Trinity from Jac Shaeffer. The Magic Trinity would be quite.
That's what I could see this being a really well done trilogy.
Yeah, absolutely.
No Trinity.
But you can't do that because that's a DC thing.
That's Blade Trinity.
I suppose, okay. Well, that definitely can't be done. That's a Wesley Snipes thing.
There you go. For the moment. We do have Mahershala Ali coming in to play Blade for the first time in What If? He's coming out next month.
Yeah, that will be the one and only time.
He will be voicing Blade next month in What If.
What if Mahershala actually got to play the role?
Exactly. So I guess finally then, Chris, do you defend Agatha All Along before we go into the Assembled documentary?
I do. I really strongly do. Again, echoing what John said there, and I think that's the best way. Right now, this is an amazing kind of duology of kind of a back-to-back, and you can almost think of it as two beautiful films that kind of tell part 1 and part 2.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm kind of salivating for part 3. I'm really interested to see where this story.
Yeah.
That being said, the supernatural world of the MCU through Doctor Strange and now these 2 shows, I could do with little projects in this world. If you think of Werewolf by Night, give me these Marvel Premiere Selects, I think they were calling them Marvel Selects.
They changed again for Echo, didn't they? So
they did. I can't remember what it was.
It was Marvel Spotlight, maybe?
Marvel Spotlight, I think it was.
Yeah.
Give me one more of those, like every Halloween.
Yeah.
Like, just give me
absolutely.
an hour-long horror / witchcrafty supernatural delve into this world, and you could do it well.
That'd be cool. And I suppose the one thing to really remember here is Matt Shackman was pulled from his work on WandaVision and elevated into the movies, and now he's the writer on lots and lots of the Marvel movies. I think he's one of the lead writers for Marvel Studios, so everything kind of run past him. So got Jac Shaeffer working on season 1 of WandaVision, then doing Agatha All Along as showrunner. So I want them to pick her up and put her somewhere else. I really want them to give her Doctor Strange 3. That's where I really would love to see her go and go, right, we're going to have a proper wizard in Doctor Strange here, this proper Sorcerer Supreme with lots of other sorcerers around. I'd love to see her tackle that story of,
that would be really very
the wiping
cool.
out of magic.
Like bringing in sort of the witches, but also you had Clay as well at the end. So really, that would be quite cool, I have to say.
Yeah, so that's the job I'd love to see Jac Shaeffer get, if she's not going to get just another series. But whatever she does next, I'll be around looking for it.
And I definitely want to see the magical bar as well.
Oh, the bar with no name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to
that's
see
good
that
choice.
in a Marvel property.
That'd be cool.
And I want to see Brother Voodoo
Of course. You've been asking for that since back in Luke Cage days, John.
I know.
Yeah.
Just get on it, will you, Marvel?
Someday.
Stop keeping me waiting.
All right, guys. Let's get on to the Agatha All Along assembled documentary on YouTube. If you haven't watched it yet, pop on over to the Marvel YouTube channel. It's on there. It's about an hour long, as all the assembled documentaries are. But the first kind of thing I want to mention about this, I suppose, first kind of point, this really does seem like an episode by episode mini show stitched together into the assembled documentary. Didn't feel like the other assembled documentaries. I know I mentioned at the top that they didn't release this on Disney Plus, but I think we've been watching a lot of HBO shows recently, and they do a little 10-minute clip afterwards, and AMC shows do this 10-minute clip afterwards where they talk to the cast or the director and writer about the episodes or the stunt coordinators, and this feels like one of those stitched together into this full assembled documentary.
I guess so. Like, I quite enjoyed this. I just found it, because it was done chronologically, I found it infuriating because I kept writing. This is purely as a note taker for the podcast, because I kept. I think they had the first sort of element where they were talking to like the costume designer and maker and all that.
Yeah.
I was writing all that down. I think Dan Saloni, taking all that down, and I was like, why has he not gone into Wiccan's costume? I was like,
that's going to be a big
this
thing.
is really weird. He's not gone into Wiccan's costume. But then there were another 3 smaller bits on costumes all the way through. And so just from that perspective, I don't know why. Maybe it was just like the evening I was watching it.
Yeah.
It really infuriated me because it just kept
the costume section.
It kept circling back to different things rather than taking it, I guess, a bit like the making of for the Penguin, where they took it as stunts and production design and music and all those, and looked at those sort of departments behind camera. And that's kind of, I guess, how I've always seen making of. Really, it's primarily focusing on those units and teams that put a lot of production work into into the making of TV and movies.
And there is crossover. They can appear in other segments, of course, but it is nice to be able to go, okay, skip to 10 minutes in, I want to see all about the costumes and see a whole segment about the costumes, or 20 minutes in and see the whole segment about how they did the music for the show. Yeah.
And I think it just got in my head, really. So it's not even that important, but it's just because it went chronologically. I kept, why are they not talking about such and such thing or such and such thing? So, but what I did really like about it was just a lot of the pieces to camera from Patti LuPone, actually. I just think she's a class act. There's a moment where she says, we've become sisters, and there's just that exploration and love, and it was fun to find our instruments. And it was a really nice sentiment,
especially when they were with the episode, they were talking about the first ballad.
Exactly.
Singing to go down the road, and she was talking about, I think it was Jennifer, the actress who plays Jennifer, was especially saying, like, Patti turned her around and goes, "Oh no, my dear, I only sing soprano."
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like,
that was to the writers of the song.
Oh god, yeah, there was a composer. I forgot that. Yes,
that was a really nice moment. Just with and just because that Down the Witch's Road such so central to this series,
cool.
And it was a really nice moment of them, coming together. A little bit of shock and awe that they were going to have to sing with this icon of Broadway.
Absolutely.
And actually this icon of Broadway is just a very generous actor who, as says, it was exploration between friends and finding our own instruments, and a lot of love and help along the way. And it's just a really nice sentiment. And really kind of liked that focus on Patti.
Absolutely.
Speaking of that, like, that's kind of a follow-up. One of the key bits, I found that the way they edited it, and like you said, it was all these different pieces. I found that a bit frustrating.
Yeah.
But one of the behind the scenes I found I don't believe they did it, but they did, was the raw, unedited kind of sound of the ladies singing.
Mm-hmm.
So when they were singing their version, like, we already know they recorded all of that off stage, on sound stage, essentially, in their own recording booths, and because they told us as much. But you could hear them raw singing it, and I was like, "Oh, that's brave!" Like, that's they had such a stand behind the lady singing, and how it still sounded great, even with that very much raw, unedited.
Yeah.
No backing vocals, no harmonies, like prop. And then there was like one or two, like they definitely missed it, and they giggled and they just broke into laughter. And you're like, that's classy, because you're showing that, especially Catherine Hahn, who apparently, I just want to be her friend now. Like, awesome. She's just awesome. Yeah. Like, her and Aubrey Plaza seemingly riffing off each other as much as they did. And you're like, I just want to, can I just be your friends? You're kind of cool.
It's great, isn't it? But that scene when they're in the basement and they're doing the Witch's Road for the first time together, I think that's the one they focus on the most when they're talking about the music business, because I'm sure it is really difficult. You hear Jac Shaeffer saying to them, okay, you don't need to hit your marks perfectly on this, but we're going to do a take where you sing all of the words so that we can match it to the one you record in the studio. And it's there where you go, oh, this is where you hear Patti LuPone's voice.
Yes.
I kind of thought that was Catherine Hahn because she leads the song at the beginning, but no, you see Patti LuPone taking over, and it is her vocals absolutely on top of everybody else. Everybody else is following her, but they're all doing such a great job. They've obviously all sang the song multiple times before they got to set, but it's a really special moment seeing them all together sing the song the way that we heard it on screen. It's really cool. Yeah. One of the things I really loved about Patti LuPone, the reason that she did the role, was it was described to her as she's a Sicilian tarot card reader, and she went, well, I'm Sicilian, and the last show I did was I was a tarot card reader in it, the American Horror Story. So this is coming down my path. I wonder, did she actually mention in the original version? Did she mention her work as a witch on Penny Dreadful as well, and they just cut that out because Penny Dreadful isn't available on Disney Plus.
Well, maybe, yeah.
American Horror Story is, weirdly, through Hulu.
Yeah, no, that was interesting, because I don't think I've even seen that series.
I think
of
it's season
American
28
Horror
or
Story.
something of
Yeah,
American
no,
Horror.
exactly. It's gone on for so long.
Yeah.
I think the other thing as well, the music part of this was really good, and it's the same couple, Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez, that are back again doing the music here.
Who famously, of course, did the music for Frozen.
Yes,
Let it go.
and of course WandaVision.
Yeah.
Again, it's just because The Witch's Road is so central to the show. I loved how Kristen was really getting excited about the challenge of having to sort of develop this tune to these lyrics that, it had to fit both sort of an ancient chant of a coven to a 70s, to a blues, to a sacred sort of choral chant.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the first time we hear the music in the show is Agatha humming it in the police car going to, Wanda's body in the woods, the Scandic Nordic crime drama. So I really liked that. I really enjoyed hearing them again, sort of going through how they work this out, because I found them really fascinating in WandaVision just because of having to do the different music for the different era of shows and just using the themes and sounds of those decades, so that was really cool.
Absolutely. And I don't think we even mentioned on our podcast for the first episode that also the theme tune for Agnes of Westview, the TV show in that first episode, that theme tune is a version of Down the Road, Down the Witch's Road, but it's the lyrics are different because it's not the Witch's Road in that, but it is another version of the song. It's because we were watching the episodes one at a time, so we hadn't got to the second version of Down the Road at that stage, or the ballad at that stage. But yeah, I loved it. I loved the way she talked about it being that puzzle box for her. She loved just putting it together like a crossword puzzle, or solving all of these things that were being thrown at her. Give her the puzzle, let her sit in a room, and she can work it all out, and then she hands it over to Robert Lopez, who does the music for it and does the production for it.
Well, that's it. I didn't really hear Robert say that, and I was like, did he not like that challenge?
It seems that she's focused on the lyrics and that style, and then he's the one that has to do to wrap the music piece around it. But even kind of like you said as well, John, even the way she said that she took inspiration from songs that would have traveled down through centuries and had changes made to them through songs coming from native countries to America and being transformed into blues, being transformed into jazz, that kind of thing. Those kind of songs that have lasted for hundreds of years, and that's what she needed to create. Like, what a big challenge! But if anybody can do it, it's a person who's won pretty much every single musical award out there, and an Oscar as well, of course.
We hope.
Yeah.
And I think on the costuming, so actually we did luckily get some explanation around Wiccan's costume, which I thought was really cool, in that you had Vision's motifs on the inside of his cape.
So cool.
And you had Wanda's on the outside from WandaVision, her motifs.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
But even the other stuff of the jumper and jeans that Teen had been wearing all the way throughout the show, being converted into the Wiccan costume.
Yeah.
So having, the elements that he'd sewn himself onto the jeans turning into a protection
runes,
spell, the runes that form a protection spell. That's cool. That's really interesting for a costume designer to be able to do it. I haven't seen any of his work before, but he's so interesting.
But even Agatha's coat, which everyone was saying was just so swishy and great.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that you had that flock of birds at the top that fly down the spine of the coat, but eventually are turning into runes in the tail of the coat.
Yeah.
Really,
So cool.
really cool.
Yeah.
And then on Patti LuPone's jacket, again, it's kind of taking inspiration from Sicilian, sort of kind of quite ancient Sicilian types of clothing. And again, it was just the scenes around the scarf collar, and effectively there were scenes of women passing knowledge between each other, sort of all culminating in the eye of knowledge at the back, at the bottom of the neck, at the top of the coat.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really excellent.
And what did he say? He loved the idea of her looking forward into the future and also looking behind her at the same time, which is kind of her old character.
I was just shocked this level of thought and detail went into the and I mean, I understand costuming, especially on TV shows, it's a huge production and it's a huge piece, but these, like, the small runic details on some of the jackets and the dresses and the gloves and the skirt, unless they were pointed out, which they were, I don't know many people would have copped them.
No.
Yeah.
The small galaxy wave on Wiccan's costume, which calls back to some of his mid kind of costumes at the moment, or when he was in space. Like, and it's just I just thought it was a nice dark hue blue, but then they high res photos show it has a bit of white speck, so it's the galaxy callback. And I'm like, dude, well, like, that's the level of Easter egg, like, that you love to hear about. You could have, like, given us, like, 20 less runes and we would have still given you a huge high five. You didn't need to go that, like, that's the student that goes for, like, the A plus. And then when they're already at the A, you're like, dude, just, it's fine. We you win. It's fine. They're like, no. I'm going. I'm finishing this. Yeah.
Like, they could have gone down to a thrift store or a secondhand store and picked up, a blue jumper and a pair of jeans and given them to Joe Locke and said, that's your costume for the teen.
But that's it.
But having them handcrafted or having them hand adjusted by the teen in character, where he's creating runes and creating magical symbols on his own clothes, and those turn into something for Wiccan. That's so much thought in there. I think from the Penguin documentary, there's an interesting discussion with the costume designer there, where she says, the actors take the script and they act it, the writers write the story. In costuming, what we do is we write our own story for the characters. We create their past and create something for the actors to take and wear and use to form their character. So from their perspective, that's their art, that's their tool that they use in the production. So having someone be as detailed as Dan Salon is here on the costumes adds to the world of Agatha.
Well, that's it. I mean, like, even Jen's costume, it had all these different symbols of different herbs and flowers, almost effectively nodding to her potions master and and using them in her potions, but also that it was a very subtle tone of pink, which they used because it used to be a manly color. Yeah.
To mean strength,
to mean strength, and to give her that element as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost, even though Alice Wu's costume had something in it, I almost felt sorry for Alice for just kind of looking like a rock star.
Well, I love the description that Dan has of that. Yeah. That's the costume is protection armor for. That's why it looks so strong and tough. It's the leather jacket, which is she's the protection witch. But on the back of it is a flaming cabin. That's effectively the death of her mother. The thing that's brought her to the road is that she. What did he say? She wears her worst pain on her at all times, which is an interesting part of Alice's character as well.
And even like the Salem 7, where the costumes all had a reflection of that animal, that they were, where that was the case. So like that was really cool. And actually, you kind of lose it because it's a black costume.
Yeah, at night. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Highly recommend going on to Instagram or TikTok if you have TikTok, and go check out some of the actors and dancers that played the Salem 7, because they put up some videos of them working together on their movement, and it was so interesting. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. Then just on the practical effects, I like the fact that there were the miniatures of like the beach house. I liked how the whole wood of the Witch's Road was done inside, and it was with matte paintings as well. I really like how matte paintings are getting a bit of a comeback.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really cool.
Yeah. We're big Star Wars fans, so that's
but it also,
we all know from that. Yeah.
Exactly, but it also worked thematically because you have Rio slicing through it, showing that it's been constructed in by Billy, effectively.
Yeah.
But even then, the flooding of the beach house, that they had all these tanks. Like, I didn't like just seeing that being done practically. Really, really good. So I really enjoyed just hearing about these different practical effects. I guess it's like, it's not just Star Wars though. Like Indiana Jones had really good matte paintings.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings has done. So I liked how they were trying to reduce that amount of green screen.
Yeah.
And interestingly for the wood, because we watched Wizard of Oz recently.
Of course we did.
How very similar, obviously much brighter.
Yeah.
But those practical effects of the path going through the woods, really... You felt the DNA of the Wizard of Oz after watching it.
Yeah.
And tonally, it totally makes sense. Again, with the revelation and the reveal that it is all from Billy's mind. He's pulled these images from his mind and created this whole thing. It does make sense that he would create something just like the Wizard of Oz, a soundstage with things built practically there, not grown, not like a real wood in a real forest that they're going through. It just has that magical tinge to it, but it is beautiful. I was getting little flashbacks to some of the Lord of the Rings documentaries when they were looking at their miniatures and how they created them. That beach house shot where they say they recreated the beach house, and it took them 6 weeks, wasn't it, to build every single element of that, every single tile, and the roof was handcrafted, all put into the exact same position that the one that was used on set was, and all for just one shot that they had to get at exactly the right moment so that the flash of the light could block the seam between the two, between the wood that they'd created and this miniature of the beach house. It's so cool. I love that stuff, that people would spend absolutely months working on these things for one shot. You could tell the emotion of the person who was working on the show, saying that she cried when she saw that moment on screen because they'd accomplished it. They'd actually gotten the thing they wanted to do. You can see how passionate they all were about it.
For me, one of the next pieces was the actual flooding of the set. So the episode from, I think it was episode 3, the house scene, where they said, where basically the water started coming into the house, and they said they did a number of tests without any water, and then on the first test with water, they said it would just be a trickle, it'd be all grand, and then they actually fully let the tanks go. And so the shock and awe and run from the people were was actually correct, and I was like, I like it.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's really cool. I just have one other thing that I really loved when they talked about in the practical effects, when they talked about the tower, Lillia's episode, and they talked about, that those were all actual swords that were dangling from the ceiling, all on the ropes that were all numbered, so they know exactly which sword is going to fall, so they don't obviously kill one of the actors, but also that the ceiling itself is controlled to be coming down towards them, but it is counterweighted, so it will fire back upwards if anything goes wrong, rather than going down really quickly. So, which again, you don't want to kill your actors when you're on a show like this. Brilliant stuff. I know you mentioned about the costumes already, John, about the main costumes that they talked about on the road. But again, there was a little split of a costume designer, coming back and talking about the costumes as he went through them. Definitely my favorite was when he talked about the costumes in the recording studio in Alice's trial. I thought that was really, really interesting, where he mentioned all the inspiration that he got from various people in the real world, rock musicians. He talks about Death costumes being inspired by Cher, Jen's costume inspired by Donna Summer and Diana Ross, Agatha's costume inspired by the ladies in Fleetwood Mac and Patti Smith. Teen's costume just had that swagger of Jagger, I think, as Joe Locke says as well. They wanted to give him that swagger so he felt like a rock star in the 70s, which was cool. And then Lillia, of course, with the Liza Minnelli look that we all noticed immediately. But the joke in it is that she worked with Liza Minnelli, is a very good friend to Liza Minnelli, or at least was back in the 70s. She would have actually seen Liza Minnelli wearing that exact outfit out on a night out. So I really liked that. Thought that was cool. And the interesting one, because we couldn't work it out when we watched the show, but Alice's look inspired by John Lennon and Yoko Ono and Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. I thought that was really interesting. And when you look back at it, you go, yeah, I absolutely see that. You know?
Absolutely.
Yoko Ono was such an inspiration for John Lennon, her husband at the time. So you can kind of see how you can mix those two looks plus add a bit of, again, the swagger of Steven Tyler as well.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
One piece we learned from that set, or that kind of look back, was all the rest of them received musical instruments and learned their musical instruments. Joe Locke received his guitar, still couldn't play it. Even after
it's like I did a few
months.
I did a few lessons over the course of a year, and here I am sitting beside someone who's an actual pianist who's leading it. Yeah,
and you're like,
cool.
like we have Aubrey Plaza going, I have a drum kit at home for the last 6 months. It's amazing.
That's really cool. It's really cool. Any other bits and pieces that came out from the episode that you want to talk about?
No, none from me.
Nothing else from myself.
I just wanted to talk about kind of Jac Shaeffer's initial discussion about how she came back on board for Agatha All Along, that she has been working with Kevin Feige on developing multiple projects. I loved this moment. I think it might even be the clip up front for this episode, but where she says, every single character that I worked with in the MCU trying to develop a show or a movie out of, Agatha would just pop in episode 3 or in scene 5. Agatha would just appear there. I love this, that, she could be working on the new Incredible Hulk movie and then Agatha appears in the background, or she could be working on whatever other project it is, and then Agatha appears and Kevin Feige goes, do you want to make it Agatha All Along follow-up? Do you want to make another show about it? I thought that was really interesting. And the fact that it did all come from that song hitting as big as it did, Agatha All Along from WandaVision, when it hit so big, when it went to number 1 around the world in multiple charts, that they went, oh, hang on a second, there may be something quite big here in Agatha Harkness that we might want to develop something out of this in the future. Loved Catherine Hahn saying, I became a meme, I became a GIF, and then my kids had to explain to me what a meme is and what a GIF is. I love that. She says she just crapped her pants when she got the phone call saying, do you want to come back to the MCU and lead a TV show? That was really a really cool little insight into what works for Marvel Studios. They find something that works and they'll develop something around it, and hopefully with the right people it'll be as successful as Agatha All Along, I guess.
Yeah, no, that was cool. As I say, Jac Shaeffer can get pen to paper and start writing a third witchy season.
Absolutely.
Part of me is very curious what else they're working on, because back about 5 years ago we got that big Hall H look, and it was everything. We had the next 6 to 8 years of shows and movies and everything, and now they're being they're holding a lot more cards to their chest. Obviously, we know why. COVID scrapped a lot, changed a lot. Kang Dynasty issue changed a lot. The writer's strike changed a lot. I understand why they're doing it. But looking forward, I'm actually I don't know much more shows.
By the end of next year, every show in production that we are aware of will have been released.
Yes.
Apart from season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. We know season 1 of Daredevil Born Again is coming out in March. Season 2, it's been split, and season 2 will come out in the future. But everything else that we're aware of will pretty much be out next year. Vision Quest, sorry, that's the only other one, whatever that show is going to be called in the future. That starts filming next year. But yeah, there's not much on the future slate at the moment. I think part of that is because they slowed down. They released a lot less things. I think only one movie this year, right? So they've slowed down in releasing them because of the writer's strike and the director's strike, and of course the challenge that they had with the special effects studios who were working massive overtime, and led to one of the major executives in Marvel being fired for their work with them. So they've had a lot to deal with. They slowed down the release of a lot of shows and movies. They're all back on the schedule for next year. We've got a big Marvel year next year because they are trying to lead back into the next Avengers movie. So there will be space in the future for other projects down the line. Hopefully this Disney Plus thing keeps going and we keep getting great shows on Disney Plus, and hopefully Jac Shaeffer is in the lead of those in the future as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping. I really am.
Yeah, definitely.
I've only got one final note before we close out this portion of the making of Agatha All Along. Just because we referenced all of the Wizard of Oz stuff throughout the series, there was also one little reference that you might have missed. You might have blinked and missed it. but the filming of the show was under the name My Pretty, which I loved.
Oh, the Green Witch.
I'll get you, my pretty, yes.
Well
See,
done.
They even had a little reference to Wizard of Oz in the making of Agatha All Along.
Very good. Very good.
So that just leaves us with one final thing. John, do you defend Marvel Studios Assembled, the making of Agatha All Along?
Yes. I hadn't really gotten a defend or not. Yeah, I do defend this. It's great to always look behind the curtain, shall we say.
Or slash through the scenery, yes.
Well, just to give another Wizard of Oz reference.
Absolutely.
And see how the cogs work, and if indeed it is actually just someone pulling levers and pretending.
Yeah, it is.
I know. I did. I found it a little frustrating. I think, when it's feels like it's stitched together, but that doesn't take away from just, exploring the costuming, exploring the music, exploring the practical effects and how it was done, and little snippets around other aspects of the production. I'm always going to like that. So yeah, I do defend this. Chris, do you defend Assembled, the making of Agatha All Along?
I do, but much like you, I had not fully... This one even didn't feel like a... I suppose that, again, it was they're testing a few things. It didn't feel like another of the previous making ofs that where we've seen a bit more of a deep dive. I love some of the things we've seen, but there's only so much victory laps I can give them as high fives as they go past us. I'm like, yeah, you did great. You did okay. You still did great. Well done. I like the costume design. I'm like, you guys went above and beyond. Well done.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Much like Agatha All Along, the song, The Witch's Road, the song, is in my head to this day.
Yeah.
It is like toss your coin to your witcher. It will stay in my head every now and again.
I listened to 2 versions of it the other night again. I'm loving that song.
Toss your coin to your witcher, or...
No, Chris, not Toss a Coin to Your Witcher. The ballad from Agatha All Along, Chris.
Okay. I thought we were going to have a Witcher moment there again.
Yeah.
I listened to Zigga Zigga.
If you want to be my lover. But beside that, so look, I do defend it. I think they need to settle on a formula for the Assembled and really kind of just figure what like that out, so we know kind of what it will be. Every now and again, it still feels all right. Well, we're just gonna put the intern with a camera there and just take some B-roll and get them to interview 1 or 2 people. I think just give us that really like the Lord of the Rings behind the scenes. Like,
well, absolutely.
You know what you have. You know at this point.
That is gold standard, but I think that cost them a couple of million to make as well, to be honest. But I do think the Echo Assembled that was done earlier on this year for the 5-episode season of Echo added so much to the production of the show, because you had interviews with the first peoples that were involved in creating the show. That's fascinating stuff. That's not just people sitting down going, I wrote the lines because I liked this and I got the part and I worked with these people and aren't they fabulous? That stuff is a bit boring. You're totally right, Chris. When they can do a documentary where they can go in depth with people that you wouldn't normally see, like production designers or special effects people or costume designers, where they can go in depth as to what was going on in their head when they created something for the character, that adds something to the show. And we got a bit of that in this Assembled documentary. But it could have been better. There could have been more. They could have had it segmented, like John said, rather than it being 10 minutes in each episode or something like that, or 10 or 15 minutes in each episode. We could have talked about that project and that writing. I've learned a lot more from listening to podcasts with Jac Shaeffer about her process than I did her talking to the camera in this episode.
Yeah.
Well, to quote my notes, I've got, weirdly, it didn't mention Wiccan's costume.
Well, yeah.
and then it
did.
But then it's right at the end of the...
They mentioned
show.
Wiccan's costume.
Yeah, exactly. Because, and that's the thing, I was just... Okay, because it literally went through Agatha's coat, it went through Jen's stuff, it went through Lilia's sort of jacket, so, it felt strange.
And they probably should have mentioned that William's costume on the road is different to the Wiccan costume later. It's a costume that he wears throughout, and there are elements of it that are interesting and detailed about his character. But they probably didn't want to say it because they hadn't revealed by that episode that they were doing this 10-minute short about. That's what I mean. Exactly the point. If they were doing a documentary on the series, they'd be able to talk about all of those things in segments about the show, but because they were doing them as little slots. But overall, though, I always love the behind-the-scenes stuff. This is a fun one. There's some great ones. So overall, I defend this. But again, it's in the region of 3.5 to 4 because they could do better. I'd like to see more of the interesting details behind the show. There's lots more to talk about. There's tons of podcasts, tons of interviews out there that you'll learn loads about behind-the-scenes stuff. So I wish it was all just stuffed into a great documentary as well.
Yeah.
Excellent.
On Disney Plus, not just on YouTube. There have been over 800,000 views of this on YouTube, though. So it has massive legs for a behind-the-scenes documentary, which are usually 40 to 50,000 on YouTube. Having 800,000 people tune in and watch this hour-long documentary on YouTube is pretty big for a show you have to have seen all 9 episodes of to understand the documentary. So that's pretty big, I think. So hopefully they'll put it back on Disney Plus and give me the logo image, because I don't know what I'm putting as our logo image, because I just usually use the the image of the assembled documentary. They didn't create one for this.
Just use me. Here.
You're on there already, Chris. You're on there already.
That's a fun one of me just starfishing.
That's it for our coverage of Agatha All Along, the assembled making of documentary, our Cauldron Coven quiz, but it does leave us with one final section, our feedback section for the episode. First up, we have a little bit of feedback in from Coffee and Vodka on the series, who said, "Greetings, fellow Scare and Back Again defenders. Had a rewatch after the knowledge drop of the final couple of episodes, and it went down much better. I'm thinking John was right about the whole peppering the last episode through the season, though. Either way, easily one of the best MCU series produced post Daredevil and Jessica Jones. 4 forested BDSM basements, Red Queens, and sidebarred Salem 2s out of 5. Peace and take care, Coffee and Vodka."
Thanks, Coffee and Vodka. I must question, how many forested BDSM basements do you know? Is there 4 of them? Are they forested in green forest, evergreen, deciduous? You must tell us in the next email.
You don't have to tell us, Coffee and Vodka, I promise.
Yes, and thank you, Coffee and Vodka. I'm not always right, but I'm glad that you thought I was right.
Yeah.
Yay, it's a win.
And you were right, John, for once. No.
Exactly.
Great stuff. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Thanks, Coffee and Vodka. We also got an email in from Indigo, who says, "Hi guys, I've been listening to your podcast since the start of Agatha and have been loving hearing your thoughts. I have absolutely loved this series and I'm so sad it's over. While I'm not 100% sold on the finale, overall I did love it and I think it provided some of the most powerful scenes from the entire show. Mm-hmm. One thing that I can't help thinking is if Agatha's plan was to kill the Coven that first day, why on earth did she tell Lillia that she can only steal powers when she is blasted by witches? One more thing that bugged me in episode 8 was Agatha's ever-changing motives, to the point where it felt a little clunky to me. I get that she is manipulative and a trickster, but she went from sincerity to betrayal and changing her mind to betrayal again to sacrificing herself. It just felt like she didn't even know what her objective was. In saying this, I loved finally seeing Agatha show some vulnerability, and the last 2 episodes made me emotional multiple times. Thanks for your coverage, and hopefully see you for Season 2, Vision Quest, whatever is next. Thanks so much, Indigo. Glad you found us, and glad you enjoyed hearing our thoughts about the series of Agatha. Absolutely loved it too. I think it's no secret that the finale was not necessarily sold to me. I did like it, and I think I'd certainly like to go back and watch it again after hearing Coffee and Vodka saying on rewatch that it sells a bit better. I think it could have just been that sort of sheer, really, between episode 8 and episode 9. But I certainly enjoyed it. I like seeing the history of Agatha and going back in time to see how everything with her son Nicholas played out.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Thanks, Indigo.
I love that. I can kind of see how that would work as an episode standalone on its own in the future as well, because of how it starts and because of how it ends. Really like the finale. And yeah, why did Agatha tell Lillia that she can only steal powers when she's blasted by witches? I take it that because Agatha had spent 300 years convincing Coven's witches to attack her, that she probably felt she could get all of these witches to attack her, even if she told them, I can steal your powers when you do. I feel like she knows how manipulative she can be and how difficult she can be, and that's why she thinks she can get them all to attack her, even though she's told them that she will steal their powers. I think that's probably just the overconfidence of Agatha.
I think that's part of it. That's the part of the way they built the character, but I also think part of it is no one trusts anything she says. They all think that everything coming from her mouth is a form of a lie or a twisted truth. So her just giving the God's honest truth, they all like, oh, well, there's a catch. Like, that can't be like that. And I think that's something we learn throughout this. Like, she told us like pretty much a lot of it from net day zero.
Mm-hmm.
But we all thought there was a greater thing happening, a greater kind of mystery beyond what was happening, and no, it was all there. She kind of laid it out.
She was going to kill them.
Yeah,
exactly. She needed her power back and wanted to find the Coven, so she was going to kill them.
She wanted her purple back.
Yeah, exactly. Great stuff. Thanks so much, Indigo, for your feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Indigo.
Just jumping in really quickly, after we've recorded, we got a voicemail in from Dr. Bob Phillips. I know he's been really busy over the last couple of weeks, but thankfully he was able to get a voicemail into us, so I'm going to pop it in here.
Folks, it's Bob here. I am really sorry I haven't got to rewatch Agatha All Along at least one more time before offering my feedback on the entire series. But essentially, wow, what a show. I mean, amazing to watch through with the twists, the turns, the way that you're anticipating stuff and then it doesn't quite happen the same way. And then when you watch it back and start to see how it was there all along, and you just didn't notice it. What joy, what depth, what getting at the terrors that are happening to our society, and really pushing the idea of power and thought and grasping one's self in the world to go forwards, but all wrapped up in a whole load of sprinkly, possibly mysticism, maybe magic, maybe just something we don't quite understand yet. This has to be a story that carries on. I can't wait to see where we go with Vision Quest and if Jac Shaeffer ends up getting the film series that she most richly deserves. This was a superb series. I deeply appreciated it. And just in case there's any doubt at all, Nicholas Scratch was an entirely human being, and I don't think had any magic in his creation at all, if that was an area of debate. Superb pod, chaps. Absolutely love it, and look forward to the next season of the next thing that you'll be watching.
Thanks so much, Dr. Bob. I'm glad you enjoyed the show as much as you sound like you did, and as much as we did.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff, Dr. Bob. I think that's it. It's like this show really, really in and of itself is enthusiastic. Mm-hmm. And I think it just brings out such positive energy.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting thing that you talk about actually with Nicholas Scratch as well. Just that, actually born of biology ultimately, normal human interactions, although we don't see the father, so maybe not entirely normal.
I still think it was Death as the other mother.
Mephisto.
Well, no, Death. Rio.
Oh, okay, yeah, possibly. Or Mephisto.
Maybe.
But in any case, like the interaction that Agatha has with Nicholas in the time that he has available is like normal, really. And as much as it can be, it's that mother-son interaction and the anguish around what she knows about her son is equally that human relationship.
Exactly.
And really, really good.
Absolutely. And I think the point is, he's not coming back. I don't think we're going to see Nicholas Scratchin some other time. No. It's going to be maybe some other flashbacks or anything like that. Yeah, Billy just keeps coming back. But thanks so much for that, Dr. Bob. We will hand you back over to Chris from our previously recorded podcast to talk about the last piece of feedback from Facebook.
Yeah, great feedback. Thanks, Dr. Bob.
And over on Facebook, we got a quick message from Paul TNCD, who had this to say. Something I noticed when they were talking about the ballad, it was both the song that Agnes was humming in the car as she was driving to the location of the body in episode 1, and it was also the song playing over the titles of the Agnes of Westview. The titles versions being sung by a male African-American voice, and he sings Down the Winding Road, which is closer to the original version that Nicholas sang. This is, of course, all inside Agatha's head, so she would definitely know the original lyrics, and it's another tip-off that the song isn't quite what it seems. Thanks, Paul. I didn't actually get the Winding Road bit. So that's really interesting that we had actually heard the original. I knew that they were singing a kind of different variation of it. But yeah, I didn't catch the Winding Road, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that's the first words that Nicholas sings are Down the Winding Road, isn't it? So, it's a really cool touch. And again, it's more seeing it after seeing the later episodes and hearing Down the Witch's Road as many times as we have now. When you hear the original, go, oh yeah, of course, it's the same song.
It's a great kind of motif through this series. Yeah, and good spot as well on the Agnes of Westview, the music there. I hadn't heard that, so again, another little thing to look out for.
Exactly.
On a rewatch. Great, thanks, Paul.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Paul. And thanks, everybody, for all of your feedback and all the entries for the Coven Cauldron Quiz as well throughout the season. It's been great keeping in contact with you during our coverage of Agatha All Along and hearing all your wonderful thoughts and theories as we went through it. And congratulations to Connie Labreda, who won, of course, our Coven Cauldron Quiz.
Yes, big congratulations, Connie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. And don't forget, you guys too can win stuff next year when we do more pub quizzes, when we cover more shows. But we will be back in just a few mere weeks as we dive into what could be, what might be, what if.
And what is the final season of What If, the third season. Tons and tons of MCU cast going to be appearing in What If, as they've done all along. Lots and lots of major players from the MCU coming back to revoice their characters. Rumour has it, including Catherine Hahn coming back to voice Agatha Harkness in one of the episodes as well, which would be kind of
very cool.
And as I mentioned, potentially our second vocal appearance from Mahershala Ali as Blade, and lots more. Like I'm telling you, I have about a 2-page list of casts that have been confirmed for appearances in What If Season 3. An 8-episode series this time instead of 10, but it is the final season starting on the 22nd of December with one episode coming out every day from the 22nd of December all the way through to the 30th of December. We don't know exactly how we're going to be covering it. Hopefully we may get previews of it, which will allow us to cover it over the time. If we don't, we'll do it like we did last year and do a couple of episodes after the holiday period.
So like, Merry Christmas.
Exactly.
Yes, but one thing I will quickly note is, ladies and gentlemen, there's a kaiju episode.
Yes, there is.
Yes, it's a Pacific Rim Avengers, big machines versus big monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I'm down. I didn't know I wanted to see a mecha Captain America, but I'm here for it. And more importantly, a mecha Moon Knight.
Yes,
Ooh.
yes. Absolutely, yes. Also confirmed that that Oscar Isaac is coming back to play Moon Knight.
Excellent.
As well. So that's kind of cool. We'll have Shang-Chi back in a second appearance since the Shang-Chi movie. We are still waiting for Shang-Chi 2. It will be coming in the future. We will see Shang-Chi back, but at least we'll get his voice for the second season. And I'm hoping we'll also get to see Kihori as well, the character created for What If Season 2.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
And who's voicing the zombies? Ugh.
I don't know whether there is a zombie episode this season because we have Marvel Zombies coming out next October, the spin-off show from this show. So I don't know whether we're going to see Marvel Zombies in What If Season 3.
I know. I keep thinking that there is Marvel Zombies in the third series of What If, but that's mainly because they chopped and cut and interspersed all these different animated elements together.
Yeah.
So it is probably the Marvel Zombies footage.
It probably is.
But I just thought it was What If, because it's kind of similar artwork.
Yeah, you probably think there's going to be a Wakanda episode when that's Eyes of Wakanda, which is always also coming out next year. Yeah.
It might be, but who knows? Only time will tell, and you know what that means. It's time to say goodbye.
Mm-hmm. And until What If, thanks so much for joining us for all of our chats about Agatha All Along. Hopefully you'll be back with us in the future for more Marvel and loads of other shows that we're covering on TV Podcast Industries.
Yes, thank you so much from me. And if you're looking for something to watch, may I recommend Legends of Akhmakada Season 3, only on Prime Video. Now, go check it out.
Why, thank you, Chris. Yes, very good. I can concur with old Christoph.
The big one that's been recommended to me is Arcane, which just finished. Arcane Season 1 and 2. I haven't started it yet, but we've had lots of recommendations, lots of people telling us we'd love it. So I'm going to check that out.
To watch that,
spectacular. Season 2. I so far, first part 1, amazing. I haven't watched part 2 or part 3 yet, but yeah.
And it's all out, all available now. It's
Excellent.
the end as well. It's finished, so it's full, complete 2 seasons of the show out now.
There you go, fellow defenders. And again, a big thank you to our quizzes as well for popping over those answers. But until next time, fellow defenders, keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep defending.
Bye.
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 Is anybody going to the cinema to watch Kraven the Hunter? We probably aren't.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it would be just for Ab Watch, I guess.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of like, you know, Spring Watch and Autumn Watch on the BBC.
It is
BBC Nature, but it's Ab Watch.
Yeah. MCU abs or
It's,
non-MCU abs.
yeah.
Sony Pictures abs.
It's Sony Marvel Ab Watch.
I don't know. I am hearing good things.
Well, from the director of the movie who said, please, those people that have been disappointed by Sony's movies and spin-off movies, please come check out my movie.
Yes.
You'll like it.
Yes,
But then
I've
again,
heard good things.
But then again, we also heard the same thing from the director of Fantastic, who said, no, don't you worry about all the other crap that you've been hearing. My movie's great. And he said that the day before his trash movie came out. So
Wait, are you telling me Mobius
was
not
awful?
was dreadful. And
Absolutely.
Madame Bouvier.
Madam Web was awful.
Hey,
The
that
Venom
was so
movies have
bad.
been a good laugh, but not a what a waste of 40 quid to go to the cinema.
Madame Awib was so bad. It circumvented itself, flipped upside down, saw that it was going to flip, and kind of became an okay chuckle. That's
terrible.
That was that was enough. It got some belly laughs out of me.
I fell asleep.
Not because
I
it was on purpose. They weren't trying to get belly laughs out of me. It just, the shield alone with the Popsy slide, you're like,
It was
wait,
terrible.
she's Captain America.
Yeah,
it was
terrible.
just grim.
And as for Joker, it's not just Marvel who are having this problem.
No, exactly.
Joker Follow I Do has come out. It's available to buy. I turned around to John last week and said, do you want me to purchase that so we can watch it tonight? And John said, no, absolutely not. We'll wait for it to come out on normal TV. This is a DC property with the Joker in it, starring 2 massive actors, and John was like, nah, not a chance.
No.
So it's not just Marvel having that problem or Sony having that problem. There's lots of problems with terrible superhero movies, and they're not on the MCU side, thankfully.
Well, supposedly, Brave New World has gone back into reshoots.
Yeah.
It's now we know a lot of reshoots happen, and that's a lot of it. It's always like, oh, they showed it and everyone hated it because everyone likes to hate on MCU.
Mm-hmm.
That being also said, it's 3 months plus from release.
I would say it's locked. I can't imagine they're doing anything other than tiny reshoots.
Yeah.
Potentially the post-credit, which is always shot way
Last-
later
yeah,
than the
agreed.
movie itself, you know. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. If there's any sniff of somebody getting in front of a camera again at Marvel, it's oh my god, the end of the studio.
I mean, the stuff around Multiverse of Madness was just crazy.
Nuts.
Like, I mean, to the point, dare I say it, I wonder sometimes whether these movie review journalists or TV review journalists even have ever stepped inside a studio. Like, I just don't know. You know,
not the ones that write the headlines of it's the end of the studio because they're doing reshoots. That's just standard process at the moment. But since nobody cursed, I'm going to use this as our post credit. So say goodbye again, guys.
Bye. This was fun talk. Bye, guys.
Bye.